Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back to another great episode with yours truly, me, your favorite obnoxious rooster, covering everything drone, AI, OSINT, and all things that you find interesting. Go ahead and let me know in the comments what you want to talk about next or what you would like to hear about next. As always, like I said, if you've joined me and have stuck along this far, go ahead and give me a like, share. Don't forget to subscribe. And let me know in the comments what I can do better to make this show much more entertaining. Alright, we got some great things coming up here. Again, Saturday is going to be our next iteration of Intro to Off-Grid Communications. You get the skills, the tools, and everything you need to walk out competent and confident in your ability to operate a radio. Not only that, we cover everything else from how to gather information to getting intelligence from radio-based sources. So you get everything you need from that class. And not to mention, we have our MeshNet open right now. So if you're an alumni, come join us on the Mesh. It's open right now. So that's, again, AES 256-bit encrypted Mesh channel for those who've gone through Intro to Off-Grid Communications. And stay tuned because we're going to have some free giveaways coming up here. We're going to be doing a great fall giveaway here. All the details are going to be getting put out on Mesh. So if you're not on our Mesh channel, take our class or find somebody who is. We're going to be giving away some pretty cool stuff there, and exclusively for those on the Mesh network. All right, moving into our tech section, Smart Dust. All right, let me know if you guys have heard of this one. Smart Dust is making its way onto the scene. Scientists have developed a smart dust that can spy on a room while drifting in the air. Smart dust, or networks of tiny sensors capable of monitoring their environment. Originally proposed as a DARPA research project, Smart Dust has evolved from millimeter-sized wireless receivers to their near-invisible mode measuring 0.002 of a cubic millimeter. They're going to be using this to detect light, sound, chemicals in the air. Some have said geoengineering or monitoring for potential geoengineering. So very interesting stuff coming out with tiny particle receivers. Interesting. Okay, moving on to our other tech section. Anduril. I don't know, you guys remember covering the owner getting a new drone last week, but anyway, the company is showing off its latest Barracuda 500. This is a air-launched cruise missile with a range of 575 miles and a payload of about 100 pounds. What makes this one interesting, it can be loaded onto any cargo plane and dropped, and this thing basically goes to loiter, and it's controlled from a remotely operated center. So it's pretty interesting. So the idea behind these types of munitions is they're very low cost, high volume, meant to saturate air defenses from any type of platform. So I think that's kind of the direction that we're going to be seeing here in terms of development. And it's interesting that companies like this are putting stuff out like that, because we're monitoring situations in Eastern Europe, but also our PACOM concerns in the theater in Asia, notably Taiwan. All right, those that know me know I like to talk about the drone use in the police departments in Southern California. A lot of the departments now are releasing what's called their Drone First initiatives. Latest into this integration is Corona has launched their Drone First program. Also, Huntington Beach. I'll let Jeff Smith here talk a little bit about that.
Shows up in under 2 minutes. That's what's coming to Huntington Beach starting September 13th. The city's new Drones as First Responders program will send unmanned aircraft to certain emergencies, capturing video, spotting suspects, even searching for missing people before officers arrive. Supporters say it's about speed and safety. Critics, they're worried about
very interesting. So as you can see, folks are concerned about the level of surveillance in their community as police departments across the country, and notably here in Southern California, are touting the crucial investigation resource that it provides. It's led to several arrests. In fact, the next one we'll cover here is the Las Vegas rooftop program. They're going to be putting 13 stations all over the city with about 3 drones to each, all remotely controlled from an operations center. And this is where the future of policing is going. It's going to be rooftop drones that are essentially leading to criminal investigations, intelligence, or information that supports criminal investigations. Las Vegas has touted its 1,100 missions that have led to about 386 arrests. So as you can see, that police departments are leveraging the technology. Communities concerned as we grow more and more into a surveillance-based approach, where we'll start to see things more in the proactive sphere, like we've covered last week, like things like Gideon and other AI-based algorithms that can scan your social media, your face, or anything that you basically have a digital footprint with. Interesting to monitor how the legal cases shape with respect to the resources that are developing. All right, and sticking along with California, I don't know if you guys have been monitoring this one. The San Diego parking is becoming quite the issue. So I don't know. There's folks have been to downtown lately. The parking down there is pretty steep. And special event parking, I've seen people say upwards of $40. So it's really hurting the local economy. The workers that are going down there now have to factor that into their daily commute, but also their expenses to work at this place downtown. So a lot of you think about it like your bartenders, your servers, the whole economy that exists down there. It's a tourist-based economy, so it does bring in the workers from outside the city, and now to park, they're going to have to factor that in their take-home pay, and they're not happy. A lot of folks aren't happy with the parking that's going on, and in light of that, San Diego City Council just went on to approve a new parking charge for Balboa Park. So if you're going to the park anytime soon, expect new parking meters. There's been a lot of talk about this, but the city just officially passed their metered parking for Balboa. So there'll be some benefits for residents and short-term fees, some exceptions. But yeah, look forward to paying for more to visit your favorite areas in San Diego. And as you can see, a lot of folks are not happy with the parking situation in San Diego. And to keep things on that note, Sacramento is really causing pain across Southern California and here in San Diego as well. You guys remember a few years ago we had a lot of contention surrounding accessory dwellings and low cost housing, or affordable housing as we like to use those buzzwords. But affordable housing because of the homeless issues, but also just the skyrocketing rate of rents, and it really is causing a headache here in San Diego. So I'll stick to San Diego, but Sacramento just passed SB 79, which is a law letting developers build multi-floor, high-rise housing inside residential neighborhoods. They have to be within a half mile of transit. But what we're seeing is a lot of these developers are taking advantage, and they're pretty much putting in 3 to 4 story condos. And as we just talked about with parking, there's really no place to park. And what's the residents are upset about this because, in my case, you've seen my channel before. I have a completely new building that blocks my. If I wanted to get like television, I can't get television anymore. It blocks my frequencies. It keeps me like in a shadow zone. But it's unsightly because what was a view is now feeling more and more urban in a residential area. So I did not pay for that when I bought this place. I certainly don't want to live in an area that is that urbanized. But that's what we're seeing here, and that's basically how it works, guys. You got folks that are quote unquote developers, and they're after profit. So that's how it works. Unfortunately, Sacramento has made that much easier. And so you could start to see how the dots are connected, because obviously if you're a worker that's going to be getting contracts, or a company that gets contracts to do these developments, those folks are happy, but the folks around there are not. So you smell like the influence of unions, if you know what I'm talking about. So for those who don't know, this goes back almost to the founding, but unionized labor and collective bargaining, those issues here are as alive and well. Obviously, when you see basically what are kickbacks to unions, so those folks can get work that lasts 5 to 6 years, putting up development in all these areas that normally weren't zoned for that type of development. But here we are, 2025. Anyway, moving into our international sector. So I don't know if you guys saw this one, but China deploying humanoid robots to spray pesticide. I looked at this one because it's kind of funny. You often hear, these are what the type of jobs Americans don't want to do, and there's a lot of that. But what you can see here is China's pointing us towards the future of what that looks like. I think we've seen it. You go to McDonald's now, a large portion of service is automated, and you're basically going to a box to pull out your food. And that's kind of what happens when you're faced with mandatory wage increases and mandates that demand companies pay more. But what folks don't realize is the highest cost to running a company or a business is labor cost. In order for a company to run and maintain itself and stay afloat in many cases, especially here in California, they'll have to lay off people or find ways to innovate and automate. And I think what you're looking at here with China is what that will look like. So even jobs that you once thought were human only, you're going to start seeing these robots. You're going to start seeing these automated robots picking cotton, cherries, oranges, who knows? But at this rate, I think we kind of get the idea that this is what happens when you try to create utopia. You end up with an urban dystopia. Anyway, moving right along. Anyway, I wanted to show this one here because I think it's kind of fascinating to see like the direction of quad dogs is what I'm going to call them. I don't know what they're called, what's the slang for them, but you're going to hear it here first on Red Rooster Gorilla. We are going to call them quad dogs. So these quad dogs with RPGs mounted are pretty gnarly. I want to get my hands on one just so I can start messing around with it. But, you know, I don't know. I can get my hands on an RPG. But you're starting to see these robot dogs. They're getting everything from a sensor to a camera to an AK-47. But I think it's interesting because you're seeing a lot of companies that are innovating on the back of this founding baseline model of what a robotic dog could do, or a four-legged robotic system. These are interesting. This one here was at a college in China. I don't know how comfortable you would be. So I feel like these are props. These are prop fireworks. They're not real munitions. I don't doubt that you can load these things up with real RPGs and grenades. But I think if I was sitting at a stadium at a college watching these things throw RPGs all over the place, I'd be a little uncomfortable sitting where I was at. Anyway, moving right along. We've been covering the fiber optic development with drone employment in the Eastern European theater for quite a while now. What I find interesting here is, again, we're seeing the environmental impacts and the legacy these wars are going to leave behind. And why it's fascinating to me is Ukraine once was known as like the breadbasket of Europe. But with fiber optic drone cables that are littered and strewn across these once farm fields, it's hard to say what wheat production will look like in the aftermath of fiber optic lines laying. We're not just talking like a few here or there. We're talking like pounds, hundreds and thousands of pounds of fiber optic line littering the battlefield over there. And so it's interesting. You're seeing here this video kind of talk to what the fiber optic drone resource is for. Obviously, you get better connections. So in areas where there's jamming that's being employed or GPS denial, these systems are what's replacing what would normally be RF connected drones to operate. And they're happy with it because the picture is much clearer. They don't lose feed, and they're able to continue to fly these things even throughout trenches. That's what they're saying here. So all that to say is that fiber optic line it's very inexpensive, cheap to produce. I think they've moved on to polymer fibers. At the same time, though, we got a lot of that stuff all over Ukraine right now, and it's going to be quite a long, lengthy cleanup period, I can imagine. And so we talked about like the mines in Cambodia before, I think, and things like that. You know, in the aftermath of wars, these are the things often left behind. Not as deadly as anti-personnel mines, but still, if you can't feed the country because you can't grow wheat because it's littered with polymer line weighing down everything, you know, I think you get my idea. On that, you know, you're seeing, as we talked about last week, with the cartels that are sending their folks over to Ukraine to get trained up on how to employ these things, they're also bringing that stuff back. So not only are you going to see the fiber optic lines employed in Ukraine, you're seeing them here in Sinaloa. I would assume we're going to start seeing fiber optic drones being employed there because we're also starting to see the anti-drone resources pop up. Jammers, for instance, we've talked about on this channel. So anytime there's going to be jamming or an area denial with respect to drones, you'll see this type of development or adaptation. And fiber optic drones in the Sinaloa War would be safe to assume we'll see very soon. Alright, that's going to do it for me, guys. I know a short one this week. Got a lot going on. It's hot. Get that AC on if you got it. Drink something cold. Try to stay cool. It is what we call second summer here in Southern California. We also got a hurricane down south that's rolling in, and it's creating a lot of moisture here as well, so it's really hot and humid. But anyway, like I said, we got a lot of stuff coming up. Again, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit us up, come check us out. We're going to be at Cargo Outfitters in El Cajon this Saturday. Seats are still available. We got a deal going on right now, a buy one get one, so that's a deal. Bring you and a friend. You guys can get your radio, the skills, walk out of there with everything you need to start your own special operations team. I'm just gonna say it. You'll be able to be a special operator. I don't know, but you can definitely use the skills and attributes you'll gain at the course to learn how to not only gather your own information, put it together in a way that's meaningful to not only yourself but your community, but also we give you the tools and the network. So again, right now we got the Mesh-tastic network open right now. So if you're on Mesh, if you're a former alumni, jump in there. Tell us, hey, let us know you're live. Like I said, we're gonna have some giveaways coming up for that. So stay tuned. If you're not on the Mesh, you better get there. It's definitely the future. Anyway, like I said, you get that in the class. You get our private channel for that. That's where we're going to be giving away exclusive offers and giveaways. So monitor that. But again, that's all I got for you guys. I love you all. Make sure you stay tuned. We'll be back next Friday with another show. I'm out of here.
Wow, you can feel the ground shaking.